Welcome to Fix It Home Improvement, covering projects that every homeowner should know and great products for home and garden.
Hi, I'm JC, and this is where we share weekly home improvement tips. I'm here with my co-host, Cindy.
Hello, JC.
Hi, Cindy. This week we're going to be talking about carpenter bees, and we'd like to thank Rachel CJ for a 5-star rating and review on Apple Podcasts. And Cindy is finishing up book 14. It's going to be a good one.
I hope.
There's been a recall on Kitta smoke alarms, models primarily sold between 2019 and 2020. You can go to kitta.com, it's KIDDE.com, and hover your cursor over the support tab at the top of the page. Click on Product Safety Notices, and then click on Kitta True Sense Smoke and Combination Smoke and Carbon Monoxide Alarm Recall.
Wow, that's quite a mouthful.
They have a step-by-step guide to submit a claim and get a free replacement, and keep your old alarm in place until you receive the new one.
Okay.
Scientists believe bees have been around for over 100 million years. Bees were around when pterosaurs were flying around the Earth.
What's that?
Pterosaur is a flying reptile like a pterodactyl.
Oh.
One species of pterosaur found in Transylvania was 11.5 feet tall and had a 39-foot wingspan. Scientists think the oldest types of bees were solitary, like carpenter bees, each female building her own nest in the ground or a tree, laying eggs and filling the nest with a mixture of pollen and nectar and then sealing it off for the larva to develop. According to many scientists, a giant asteroid or comet struck the Yucatan Peninsula in Mexico around 65 million years ago, causing tidal waves and volcanic eruptions that created so much debris in the air that it killed off the dinosaurs and most large forms of life, but not bees. There are hundreds of species of carpenter bees.
Really?
In the U.S., there are two main types, though. A large carpenter bee and a small carpenter bee. The large carpenter bees can be 1 inch long, small carpenter bees about 1/3 of an inch long, and they look very similar to a bumblebee, except carpenter bees have a shiny black hairless abdomen, and bumblebees have a hairy abdomen, sometimes with black and yellow stripes. Carpenter bees don't live in colonies like bumblebees or honeybees. Most female carpenter bees create a nest and they live alone, but some daughter carpenter bees will live in the same tunnels created by the mother and make their own galleries for their eggs.
Interesting.
Entomologists say some carpenter bees will create a primitive social group with the daughters, dividing up the work of guarding the openings to the tunnels, digging out new galleries, and collecting food. In the spring, carpenter bees emerge from hibernation to find a mate. The female carpenter bee starts looking for soft wood that gets morning or afternoon sun, or holes and tunnels from previous carpenter bees, or cracks and openings to start a tunnel for a nest. The male carpenter bee will protect the area from other male bees and predators. The male carpenter bee doesn't have a stinger. Only the female carpenter bee has a stinger, and they say they're very docile.
It's good to know.
The University of Kentucky says the entrance hole the female carpenter bee makes is usually perfectly round and about the size of your little finger. You may find sawdust below the opening because bees don't eat the wood, they just remove the wood as they tunnel. After boring up from below or into the wood from the side, the bee will turn horizontally and follow the grain of the wood to create a gallery 6 or 7 inches long to lay her eggs. Inside the gallery, she creates 5 or 6 cells that are constructed for individual eggs. Working from the end of the gallery, she lays an egg, deposits a ball of pollen and nectar, and then creates a partition with chewed wood. Hatching and maturation happens over a few weeks, and that ball of pollen and nectar is the food source for the larva. Carpenter bees are pollinators and help pollinate wild plants and food crops.
Wow, they're pretty busy, aren't they?
Absolutely.
Thus the saying?
Yes, thus.
Do you think that's the first time we've used thus?
Thus?
In a podcast episode?
I don't know. We say some crazy stuff. According to the University of California, we depend on insect pollination for a third of our food, including fruits, vegetables, nuts, and seed crops. Honeybees are one of the most important pollinators, but up to 15% of pollination is done by carpenter bees and other pollinators.
Who knew?
The problem with carpenter bees, though, is they bore into wood around your home and can cause damage to structural wood.
Jerks.
Many nests will have 1 to 4 tunnels, which isn't a problem. But if you have multiple daughter carpenter bees or large groups of carpenter bees in your area, you could have 20 or more holes in wood around your home, leading to multiple tunnels each. The University of California says tunnels start out 6 to 10 inches long and can be partitioned into several chambers. New adults emerge in late summer, and many will fill the tunnels they came out of with pollen and hibernate in the tunnels during the winter. Then in spring, they start expanding those tunnels. Over a period of years, the tunnels can extend as far as 10 feet.
Wow.
Yeah, amazing. If you have a lot of carpenter bee activity in your area, the nests could weaken structural wood over time.
See, that's what I'm worried about. On my balcony,
Yeah.
I have carpenter bees.
Yeah, and it started out with 1 or 2 holes.
Right.
And they were cool to watch.
Because it's the balcony above me that I'm worried about.
Right. And now there's 7 or 8 holes after a couple of years.
Well, we were looking at them the other day.
Yeah, and I'm sure
Hence the topic.
Right. And I'm sure there's going to be more next year. So it's probably a good thing to control it.
Yeah.
Right. So a great routine to have every year is to check the wood around your house in fall or spring for cracks or gaps or openings, holes from carpenter bees. And you should be filling any cracks and gaps. Check around doors, windows, soffit, and fascia. Carpenter bees prefer to tunnel in unfinished wood, so keep wood surfaces painted or stained and sealed with varnish. Texas A&M Extension says oil-based paints, polyurethane paints, and pressure-treated wood has been found effective at discouraging carpenter bees. Keep your painted wood surfaces well maintained. The Farmer's Almanac says carpenter bees dislike citrus oil. You can use a pre-made spray like Orange Guard. That's ORANGE, capital GUARD. This is made from orange peel extract. Or you can make your own spray by cutting up citrus peels, boiling them, allow the solution to cool, then put it in a spray bottle. Spray all the carpenter bee holes frequently. When you don't see any more activity after a few days, fill the holes.
With what?
Either a wood putty or caulk.
Okay.
There are bee houses or lodges you can purchase to attract carpenter bees so they have an easy place to build their nest and lay eggs rather than the wood around your home. Bee houses either have a block of wood with short tunnels pre-drilled, or it'll have a bunch of bamboo that's been drilled out to attract tunneling bees. I saw one from Wildlife World. It's called Interactive Solitary Beehive, and they're at wildlifeworld.co.uk. That's wildlifeworld.co.uk. It's a wooden bee house that looks like a birdhouse with tunnels for the bees. The lid lifts off so you can watch the bees and the larvae on the top layer of those tunnels.
Exciting.
Yeah, how cool is it? If you want to build your own bee house,
who doesn't?
There are a bunch of plans online. Michigan State University says it should be placed in a location facing southwest to receive direct sunlight in the morning, get it 4 to 5 feet above the ground, and mount it so it doesn't swing. And they say keep it out of windy locations if possible. If you have a garden, you should place it by the garden.
Okay.
If you have nests in your home that you want to fill because it could cause structural damage or you want to prevent new tunneling, the University of California recommends treating the tunnels in early spring or wait till fall after the new bees have left the nest.
All right, so we need to solve this like now on my balcony.
So treating them in spring or fall is better because you're going to kill the least amount of bees.
Okay.
You don't want to treat the tunnels in late spring or summer. The partitions between the cells will prevent chemicals from reaching the eggs or the larvae, and you don't want to seal up these openings, and then the developing bees could just chew their way out and create new openings.
Bummer.
The best time to treat is in the evening when the adults are back in the nest.
Okay.
There are spray insecticides for carpenter bees. 2 that you can find at hardware stores and home centers are Spectracide, Carpenter Bee and Yellow Jacket Killer, and Amdro, Carpenter Bee, Ant, and Termite Killer. Spectracide is Spectracide. Amdro is Amdro. Both of these are foaming aerosols that come with a tube to concentrate the spray into the tunnel. Amdro says their spray expands to a 30-to-1 ratio, and that moves the chemical into hard-to-reach areas.
Oh, cool.
You would spray the tunnels and then leave the entrance open for 48 hours. If you see any activity, you're going to retreat it. When there's no activity, you're going to fill the opening with wood putty or caulk.
All right.
Boric acid is another pesticide that can be used for carpenter ants, and this is found in nature or it's made using borax. Boric acid was used by the ancient Greeks to clean their homes, and it was discovered in large quantities in Death Valley in 1881. It was hauled out of Death Valley in massive wagons that carried 10 tons of borax at a time. They carried this 165 miles over 10 days, and it was pulled by a team of 20 mules, or 18 mules and 2 horses. And that's where the name 20 Mule Team Borax came from.
Never heard of it.
It's a cleaner.
Really?
And the cleaner's name is 20 Mule Team Borax. Boric acid kills insects if they ingest it. It disrupts stomach function and it affects their nervous system. It can also kill plants by causing them to dry out.
Right.
I once put boric acid all around the foundation of my house to help control insects because I didn't want, spiders and silverfish, centipedes coming through the foundation wall. I was starting to have a problem.
Yeah, how'd your grass?
So it killed the grass all around the foundation of my house. So now I use diatomaceous earth. Boric acid is low in toxicity to adults, but children shouldn't be exposed to boric acid. There's been cases of seizures and death from boric acid exposure. It's a light powder, and it comes in a bottle that you squeeze to puff it into carpenter bee tunnels. If you were using boric acid to kill insects in your home, you would apply it in a very thin coat, like under your baseboards. But for the tunnels for a carpenter bee, you can force a large amount into the tunnel, and that way the bees have to make contact with it.
Right.
A safe insecticide to use is diatomaceous earth. It's a very fine powder made from microscopic, fossilized, single-celled algae. Their cell walls are made of glass-like silica, which is abrasive, and when insects get diatomaceous earth on their body, it cuts up the thin, waxy protective layer on their exoskeleton, and it also absorbs the oils and fats that keep them from losing moisture and dying from dehydration.
Right.
And they can't build up an immunity to it because it's mechanical in the way it works. You would puff this into the tunnels just like boric acid. It's non-toxic to people and pets, but wear a disposable respirator when you apply it. You don't want to inhale it. It's a lung irritant.
Right.
And you should also be wearing a dust mask or a disposable respirator with boric acid also. Apply diatomaceous earth when it's dry out and the tunnels are dry. Don't use pool-grade diatomaceous earth. Use diatomaceous earth that's labeled for insect control. Pool-grade diatomaceous earth has been heat-treated, which turns it into crystalline silica. And if you inhale crystalline silica, it can be a health hazard. Even in small amounts, it's classified as a carcinogen.
Right.
Another insecticide is silica gel. It's a fine powder that you would puff into the tunnels. Most silica gel for insect control has a slight electrostatic charge, and that causes it to stick to the insect's exoskeleton, and it works like a sponge to absorb the protective waxy coating on the insect, and so it kills it by dehydration. Interesting, huh? Some silica gels for killing insects have added chemicals like perethrins to poison the insect also. Pure silica gel has very low toxicity to people and pets. Again, it's not good for your lungs, so you should be wearing an N95 or higher respirator, disposable respirator, or some type of dust mask.
Right.
There's a sticky trap for carpenter bees from Rescue called Trap Stick. It's TRAP, capital STIK. There's no poison. It's just a sticky surface, and it's colored and shaped to attract carpenter bees. They call it a visual attractant. They have a lab where they test colors and shapes that attract different insects. And so just by looking at this, they're attracted to it. It has a plastic cage around it to prevent birds from getting caught on the sticky surface, but this has no chemicals or pesticides. You can also get carpenter bee traps. They look like the bee houses or lodges. They're a wood box with holes to attract carpenter bees. And once they go into these holes, there's a glass or plastic jar to trap the bees. So once they come in through the tunnel, they can't figure out how to get out. And there's no poisons or baits. And these don't attract honeybees.
Oh, that's good. Do you have anything else to add?
Carpenter bees are good pollinators, so if you have carpenter bees around your home, giving them a bee house is an easy way to keep them away from the wood on your home. And have a routine every spring or fall, checking all the wood around your house for gaps and cracks. Keep them filled, and keep painted or stained wood well maintained. And this is something we're going to have to get for you, so we can put your bees into a bee house.
We'll keep you updated on their progress. Let's wrap this up.
You can subscribe or follow our podcast on your favorite podcast app.
If you enjoyed it, please leave us a review.
You can check out our home improvement videos on our YouTube channel, Fix It Home Improvement.
And you can subscribe to that as well.
You can download our ebooks, Home Improvement Solutions, What Every Homeowner Should Know, books 1 through 13, and soon book 14 on Amazon.
If you enjoyed it, please leave us a 5-star rating and review.
You can follow Cindy on Twitter at FixItCohost. You can follow us on Instagram, FixItHomeImprovement. And you can email us at fixitpodcast@gmail.com.
Thank you for listening.
Talk to you next week.